we are one of the very few conglomerates. In fact, Tata is a conglomerate which is more than 150 years old. And uh, what's very, very interesting is, one of the statements that we always have is improving the quality of lives, whether it is the customer, whether it is uh, the society at large, or whether it's the employee. That's always been there. Interestingly, I'm a second generation Tata Group employee, and I've spent more than 25 years with the Tata Group. And my father himself was 40 plus years with the Tata Group. So I've had the opportunity to see actually what Tata is and what Tata does. And one thing that the Tata Group is never deterred away from is their ability to support the community at large. For them,
Welcome, sir, to the MKR podcast. How are you doing?
thank you very much, Mishika. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm great, sir. So, how's the lockdown been going for you?
Well, it's been interesting times, both in terms of as a challenge and in terms of as an opportunity for us to improve, to adapt to the new norm, as we now say. So it's been both interesting and challenging. And work from home has become the new norm for most of us, if not all.
Right, sir. So, it's also been challenging in a lot of various other aspects that we've never imagined. This is such a unique experience in itself, and we're probably a
Exactly.
part of history now.
Exactly. In fact, interestingly, I have the opportunity to assess many companies in the group on their journey to excellence. And we all jokingly speak about disaster recovery, business continuity plans, but never ever did we speak out something called crisis management. And even if we did, we do not know what crisis management was. And today, we're in the midst of a crisis which has not impacted us only in a particular state or a country, but has impacted us globally. And this is actually an extreme all of us. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
So, sir, like now that the companies are facing with this crisis, how do you think this will prepare them for other such crises in future? What are the steps they're going to take post COVID?
Well, if I had to specifically answer, two coins, two sides amongst all the stakeholders. Of course, if you speak about the customer or our partners, suppliers, employees. So if we have to speak about the employees, we've actually done a lot in terms of um, making them feel comfortable by working from home. And this does not necessarily mean in terms of what each individual has to do, but in terms of actually also gearing them in terms of whether it's fear, whether it's insecurity, whether it's depression, whether the gloom that's there. So making it more positive, make it more optimistic, making a mindset that can adapt to these challenges. So that's one area that we've looked at. The other area is in terms of the society at large, and especially if I come to the CSR scenario, there is a lot of activities that we were keen on doing, and there is a certain activities that we will do after the lockdown does end. And I feel if you have to look at the current scenario of CSR in the country in India at the moment, there is a commitment of the corporate sector, and I think especially for those long-term sustainable projects, they will be continue to be support. And of course, there will be certain projects which are of short-term duration, which may be relooked at. But I repeat, the long-term sustainable projects will continue to be uh, to be supported. And what's more important is how do we actually make a positive difference to the lives of the beneficiaries, especially after this lockdown, which is very very key. The impact that we make is very very impactful. The impact on the beneficiary is something that we like to look at. Uh, there are plenty of causes to support. Surely the mindset that has changed, because at the moment, more than a job, it's about as to how they actually feel And so it's important for us to get them to the right kind of mindset, the right frame. That's important. And therefore corporates also need to have an inclusive strategy, a strategy which actually makes it meaningful for the beneficiary. uh, Unfortunately, in a country like India, and I'm using the word unfortunately because of the abject poverty that most of us are subject to, there are plenty of causes to support, whether it's in the field of education, employability, or skilling, entrepreneurship, what we call as climate action in terms of food, of water and solar. There are many causes to support, and I think it's important for us to have an inclusive strategy. And I'm speaking on behalf of most of the corporates, which actually includes people, progress, and planet. Whether it's education, health, culture, sports, etc. in people, whether it's skill development, entrepreneurship in progress, or whether it's the integrated watershed development projects or the solar projects that we do in planet. So I think the commitment of the CSR to the CSR is there by corporates and will continue to do so, especially for the long-term projects which are sustainable.
Right. So regarding CSR, I was reading an article which had two very contrasting views. One was
Mm-hmm.
post-COVID, the companies, the CSR sector, or the companies in
Yeah.
general will be focused on recovering from losses. And the other
Yes.
point of view being that they will be even more responsible towards the CSR. So which one do you think is true, and what strategy in terms of CSR will the companies be adopting once we recover from the pandemic?
So as I said, COVID or no COVID, there's the commitment for all the long-term sustainable projects, and that will continue. I must also appreciate and applaud what we've seen during the last 4 5 months since the beginning of the pandemic. We've actually seen tremendous coordination, quick mobilization of resources, manpower support from government as well as corporate CSR arms. And many of the CSR initiatives will also go through the transformation themselves to reinvent the way we design and implement activities that we're currently witnessing. For example, it's more of a relief measure. Example of food distribution, health kits, transportation support to migrants, etc. And they will slowly transition to rehabilitation measures. So I think that is very very key. Uh, there will be challenges in terms of for NGOs and our partners. They will have concerns about the CSR funding for the year. And as I said, if I speak on behalf of Tata Capital, our funding for long-term projects is a commitment, and that will not be an issue. Uh, Surely, many of the partners will also get new CSR funding, but it may take some time to get back to the normal and to engage in the same kind of activities. Many of us at corporates have committed to address immediate issues, whether it's in terms of contributing to the PM Cares Fund or supporting any of the local activities, relief measures that is being done. Uh, so, funding the post-COVID also would be a key. And many of us, at the corporates, will actually support partners through this allocation. Uh, Challenges, there will always be challenges, and it's as to how we overcome them. The first challenge is as to we envisage is as to how the partners uh, will actually implement in the post lockdown. When we speak about safety for employees, I think safety of employees of our partners are also key. So for example, social distancing will definitely continue in the near future. Safety of people who implement the projects will continue. So are there new ways to implement the projects? Yes, for example, in education, is digital the way forward? Surely, it can be digital education can be the way forward. But whether for healthcare, I could do something new, or for water projects or solar projects, I could do something new. That is still an area that we're all discussing. For example, if my community is a hotspot, how will I continue to support it, and how will I implement the projects there? So these are always areas that are being looked at. And the CSR funding will definitely be more for areas where there are challenges in terms of the COVID impact. And surely, I think it is our responsibility as a corporate to support those beneficiaries. And therefore, I think that's very, very important. Uh, the major difference is going to be with our partners, and how well they understand the situation on the ground, and how well they can support in the relief work or recovery work, as I may call it. That is very, very funding. I don't think should be an issue with the towards that.
Okay. So, sir, like you mentioned, the
Yeah.
threat CSR would be facing post-COVID, or the challenges, I would say. So, are
Mhm.
there any opportunities that are in your mind that would might also be open to CSR after this?
Well, as I said, if I speak on behalf of my company and my personal view, is that uh, we've actually not looked at, nor will we be looking at a knee-jerk reaction. Surely, 80 to 85% of our projects are what I call as depth projects, and which has a commitment over a time frame to improve the lives of the beneficiaries that we have been given an opportunity to serve. So that will definitely will continue. 20% of the projects may be now into getting recovery, as I may call it, post COVID. So there is an opportunity there. I think the bigger opportunity lies in the partners that we have, and for them to do things or to implement activities that will actually make an impactful change with the beneficiaries. And so I think the partners will have a major role play, and I think that is the biggest opportunity. Funding from our side will not be a major issue, unless and of course we do not get the right kind of projects or the right kind of areas to address with the beneficiaries or the community that we're able to serve.
So, something which I remember is like when we were taught about sustainable development goals or CSR in class fifth
Mm,
or sixth, the example we
mm,
were given us was Tata. So Tata has
right,
reformed the CSR sector completely. Where do you see
right.
the CSR in next say 10 to 20 years?
So that's an interesting question, and I'd like you to take. We're one of the very few conglomerates. In fact, Tata is a conglomerate which is more than 150 years old, and uh, what's very interesting is one of the statements that we always have is improving the quality of lives, whether it is the customer, whether it is uh, the society at large, or whether it's the employee. That's always been there. Interestingly, I'm a second generation Tata Group employee, and I've spent more than 25 years with the Tata Group. And my father himself was 40 plus years with the Tata Group. So I've had the opportunity to see actually what Tata is and what Tata does. And one thing that the Tata Group is never deterred away from is their ability to support the community at large. For them, the community always, or for us, in fact, the community always comes first. And I think it's a matter of great pride with what Tata does, the brand Tata does. With respect to Tata Capital, where I'm much more qualified to speak about, there is a commitment. There's a focused strategy, and which is based on, of course, the SDGs. At the moment, we're not addressing all the SDGs, but surely we are addressing the key ones. I'm not saying the others are not important, but there are certain areas like employability or health, etc., which are very key. Water, for example, those are very key. So that we are addressing. I think the inclusive strategy and our commitment, the group's commitment to affirmative action, what we term as scheduled tribes. There's a huge commitment to bringing them to mainstream society, what we call as an inclusive strategy. So business and CSR are not standalone, and it's integrated, and at large in mind. What I see personally in the next 15 to 20 years, the commitment will only increase. And I think the commitment is not based on what I will get by doing this, what do for the society. And I think that's always been the philosophy of the group, doing as much as possible for the society, and in fact doing much more than what we get. And I think we are, at least I personally say always that I'm a privileged employee of the group, because I get an opportunity to serve the underprivileged or to serve the society at large.
So it's very beautiful how Tata has completely reformed the sector and has contributed so much back to the society.
Mhm.
So, sir,
Yes.
talking about the general scenario, so for
Mhm.
example, we also talk about this a lot at Mitti Ke Rang. So
Mhm.
there is disparity between how social ventures versus corporate or e-commerce companies approach growth. For example, if a
Mhm.
social venture runs a ad for its fundraiser, then it's not seen
Mhm.
in a very positive light. But whereas if a corporate or a startup or a e-commerce does that, it is seen to as increase the revenue or increase the profitability in the long term. So why is there a disparity between how social ventures or NGOs approach growth versus how the others do it?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that both are very, very key to the growth of the country. Both the sectors are important to the growth of and development of a country. It's not an either or situation. I think balancing social and economic growth for human capital development is the key. I would, it's not fair. I would not like to make any comparison that may sound, if I may put it, unjust or partisan or discriminatory, unfair, influenced, or prejudiced. So uh, I think both are very, very key. And social sector is an important sector for India's economy. Uh, Definitely includes a lot of important components such as education, health, medical care, water supply, sanitation, poverty elevation, the housing conditions, etc. That play a vital contribution in human development. Let's not forget that nearly 50% of India's population is under 25, and there's a lot to do in the level of youth illiteracy, which is at the moment about 15%. And what's important is that a lot has to be done in terms of uh, improving the skills required for employment. So I think it's, as I said, it's not an either or. Both the corporate and social sector have their own opportunities for improvement. Uh, you know, uh, I actually read with interest when I was in the recent past. There is a shift in the motivation of why people actually enter the social sector. Gone are the days from the heart to the mind, from feelings to thoughts. Earlier it was more emotional when you wanted to enter a social. So it was not a sector which was aspiring, etc. And therefore, now it's different. And we would like to make a difference in the lives. We like to have an impact. We like to solve social problems. It's a individual preference, etc. There are a lot of things that we have, but there are challenges in both the sectors, if I may say so. And like for example, having the right people on board, and which means the competencies that are required, the capabilities to implement projects, etc., the capability to envision, to visualize a long-term sustainable project, and identifying the right kind of beneficiaries, having the ability to make a positive impact. Last but not the least, how do I ensure that every penny is well spent, which means a return on investment, etc. So I personally, my personal opinion is that uh, yes, even if a social sector does advertise, I don't think it is looked at as in the negative way, well compared to a corporate. The only advantage is that the corporate has something else to sell apart from its CSR. So it has a business main function, a business main line of business, whereas the social sector may not have that. But I think both sectors, in fact, the social sector has come a long way, and with the kind of people joining in this movement to make a positive impact or a transformation, I think those are very, very encouraging signs.
Right, very beautifully put and very wisely answered. So, sir, since you also have a considerable experience managing HR, so
Yes.
how would you say has that been progressed over the years, considering keeping in mind the employees' well-being and a holistic development in the corporate sector?
Well, well, that's a very interesting question. Just a few days back, I was doing a webinar for the group. We've actually embarked on a happiness journey. Tata Capital has predominantly been a company where many aspire to work for, and our engagement journey has been quite remarkable. Not necessarily only in terms of scores, we've actually had the scores to back it up, but I think more importantly, the initiatives that have come from the heart for the employees. This, about 3 years back, we embarked on the journey from engagement, of course, which engagement is part of, but we embarked happiness journey. And one of the things that we have, apart from looking at positive emotions or engagement, relationships, etc., is the meaning or the meaningful work that I do. So, which means, this company gives me some meaning, and for example, the values of the group, the ethos of the group, one Tata Capital, those kind of things. And a lot of emphasis actually on involvement in CSR, whether it is in our projects, whether it's in the group projects, whether it's in long-term volunteering, whether it's participating in social causes. We've laid a lot of emphasis on that. And another emphasis that we've laid is on the mental wellness of or employee wellness at Tata Capital, whether it's fitness of the employees, whether it's about nutrition, and whether it's about mindfulness. And when I speak about mindfulness, we have a lot of activities which we do under our Tata Capital Employee Assistance Program, basically providing a professional and confidential counselor facility for employees and their immediate family members, 365 days of support 24 by 7. It's actually professional and psychological counseling support. What's important is, and it's very, very, and this we started before the COVID, especially with coping with anxiety and panic, managing social distancing, stress management, building resilience. These are kind of things that we focused on a lot. And what we've also are attempting to do is to see what we could do uh, for the employees, what we could do for the beneficiaries or the people that are involved in a project. We have a lot of education projects in and around Maharashtra, and or the other projects to health and climate action, water, solar, etc. And we would also, if an employee is facing it, or if I am facing it as an employee, it's also equally important for our beneficiaries to also get the same kind of support. And example, building resilience is very, very key. How do I cope with anxiety and panic is something. How do I cope up with my mental health? These are the kind of things that we're discussing with the partners to get them back to their into mainstream mainstream activity, so that it gives them a level of confidence before when they come. Otherwise, the happiness journey at Tata Capital uh, has been quite a remarkable one, focusing on many activities, whether it's the normal celebration, whether it's nutrition, whether it's mindfulness sessions, whether it's a wellness sessions, whether it's employee volunteering. So we actually focused on four basic areas as to how the experience of how employees work, the functioning at work, which is what they do, how they feel, what they do, the system, organization system that we are with, and last but not the least, my personal resources, which means who they are. So the happiness journey actually gives us an indication of various factors, whether it's my sense of progress, whether it's a sense of control, my self-expression, my feelings, positive, negative, etc., the purpose, happiness, vitality, confidence, and of course, the role clarity, the design, the work environment. So a lot of things happening within the HR space, especially the employee happiness and engagement space that we're doing uh, during the COVID, which we actually started off 3 years ago, but I think is also helping us during these times. But we've actually focused on a lot of initiatives on mindfulness and employee wellness during the last 3.5 months, along with, of course, skilling, upskilling and reskilling for the employees, because it's an opportunity for employees to actually be well occupied during these times. So, but one more thing is, we've actually requested the CSR's team is actually brainstorming to see how we could actually take it forward, some of these activities on building resilience, etc., to the mainstream society or to the projects where we are there. That's all.
Right. So this is something, focusing on mental health, well-being that companies are now
Yes.
acting upon. But it is really beautiful how Tata always had a strong root.
Mhm.
So, sir, since you address these issues to the employees, can you tell us how an individual can practice mindfulness and cope up with anxiety in just small everyday activities?
Well, so I always keep saying that you know one needs to look into the mirror, and you are actually then looking at not only for your happiness but your state of mind. Happiness at the end of the day is about the state of mind. So for us, we normally engage in a lot of initiatives to build up the resilience, to build up the strength, to make you not to have that insecurity, not to be fearful, not to have unnecessary worries or anxiety. So therefore, when you see our 24/7 counseling sessions, that actually deals with anxiety, depression, etc. If you look at our yoga classes or our art of living classes, those classes actually teach you also about mindfulness, etc. So there are a combination of activities that are done across the organization, and of course, a lot of leadership engagement. So many of the leaders, time and again, reinforce the message of to the employees in terms of communication, and therefore, the employee is in a much healthier state of mind. And so we keep saying, in fact, I say with all due respect, that we are actually responsible for our own happiness. And all that can be done is to build across a strong system, or a lot of initiatives across to have a good, healthier life and a positive state of mind. So as I said, it's all about emotions. It's important for us to stay positive and to get so this, as they say, this too shall pass, and the positivity is very important for us.
Right. So these are the last couple of questions before ending the podcast that I have standard for every guest. So
Mhm.
the first one is, what is the best advice you've ever received, be it in your personal life or your professional life, that you would form a 5 to 7 word presentation title out of?
Sure, that's a very interesting one. And one thing that I forgot to add in our happiness journey at Tata Capital, a lot of emphasis is on gratitude. Whether it's like saying a small thank you, for somebody helping us out or doing a project or doing something which he or she is not responsible for, or acknowledging a work. I think a lot of emphasis placed on gratitude, and gratitude actually makes you feel more positive. On both the sides, somebody saying thank you to you, and you being on the receiving side, is a lot of is an important aspect. uh, my late mother would always say that your left hand should not know what your right hand is giving, or vice versa. So she would always advise me and as uh, to give without remembering and to receive without forgetting. So gratitude is important. So you need not tom what you give, and you should never ever forget the people that will support you, or who help you in terms of whatever the times be. So I think I take that forward in my day-to-day work and in the CSR field. I think I am fortunate now. I'm one of the rare individuals who's fortunate enough to do a lot for the society, however little it may be. And I think I always ensure that it's a small word of gratitude. So I use this phrase of give without remembering and receive without forgetting. Having said that, I also am very, very impressed and by Winston Churchill's one of the quotes that I remember. He says that we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So it's important again, the importance of giving, and as I say always, having beneficiaries, having a smile on the lives of the beneficiaries, making a deep impact on the beneficiaries of the society at large, or the community, is something which is important. So I admire this quote: "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So that's.
Beautiful. So the last question before we end up wrapping up the podcast, which is, what
Mhm.
is your message to the aspiring leaders and the change makers who are on their way?
So I would rather not say, uh, not my advice, but again, if you look at the father of the nation, he always said, Mahatma Gandhi always said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And if we want a better planet, if we want our children to have a quality of life, this is only possible by us leading from the front. So we can't do lip talk. It's important for us to get into the groove, to come into the society at large, to make a meaningful contribution. And this meaningful contribution does not necessarily have to be in terms of money alone. It can be in terms of your time, your volunteering, your support, spending some time with the beneficiaries or the underprivileged, or the poor. So I think that's very, very important. For me, it's actually, there's no better joy than to seeing a smile on the face of the beneficiary. So I think we need to be the change that we want to see in the world. So that's my few words, if I may say so.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for such inspiring words. And most importantly, taking out the time to speak with MKR team and at the MKR podcast.
My pleasure, Mishika. Thank you so much for having me here. I hope I've added value to the entire discussion in the podcast, and thank you once again for giving me an opportunity. My pleasure to be here.